I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the True Talk Radio Network. I thank you for joining me. The very special show tonight. I decided to come on because it's a historic event that happened, and it's hard not to go on the air when history is made. And I'm sitting in my studio, so it's very hard not to go on the air when history is made. The President of the United States of America, for the second time in my life, has been impeached. So only 3 presidents have been impeached in the history of the United States of America, and 2 of them have been impeached while I've been alive. I think that this current impeachment, the impeachment that happened today, the impeachment that happened just about 20 minutes ago, is a sham. I watched the hearings. I listened to the testimony. I spent hours and hours and hours following the entire production. And I believe that he was railroaded. I believe that President Trump was set up and that he was impeached for partisan reasons and partisan reasons only. He did not break a law. He didn't even come close to breaking a law. And he was impeached for partisan reasons. I invite you to call in. You could call in and talk. We could talk about this. Number to call, 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. It's been a few days since I've been on. I would say deathly ill, but that would be an overstatement. I've been quite sick, and I'm not sick right now. Well, I'm feeling a lot better. That's why I decided to come on. And so I haven't done a show in a couple of days, and so I figured on this historic night, on a night like tonight, where the President of the United States was impeached by Congress, it's time to come on and talk to you. And so here I am, having a conversation with you. And once again, you could call in, 1-877-669-1292. That's the number to call. You can get on the conversation that way. You could message me in any of the, if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, you could message me through Facebook and YouTube, or Twitter and Periscope. You could send me a message on Facebook. It's all available. You could just message me, or you could call in. I prefer you called in. I like talking to people. So, what happens next? That is the question that's asked me a lot. And a lot of people don't understand how this impeachment process works, and a lot of people are very confused by what happened. So let me try to break it down for you so that at least you understand the technical aspects of this. So the President of the United States is brought up on charges of impeachment. And first there's an impeachment investigation. Congress is tasked with doing that. According to the United States Constitution, Congress is tasked with investigating to see if there is an impeachable offense, if there is something they should recommend to the Senate to have a trial on. So Congress does the investigation, and if they find that there is an impeachable offense, or 2 or 3 impeachable offenses, then they recommend the charges to the Senate. So they have a vote in Congress, and Congress votes to impeach the president. They vote that there's enough evidence in their mind, that they could impeach the president. And they refer the charges of impeachment to the Senate. Now, when the charges get to the Senate is obliged to have a trial, to call witnesses and have a trial. And when they call witnesses and have their trial, the president and everybody has the right to defend themselves. The president had a right to defend himself in Congress too. He chose not to. So the Senate trial is presided by the person who's in charge of the trial. In Congress, it's the chairman. In the Senate, the person who is in charge of presiding over the trial is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of America. So the Senate trial is a lot more important and a lot more menacing and puts the presidency in a lot bigger peril than, let's say, the Congress trial. So the Congress basically says, okay, we found enough evidence, in our opinion, to condemn the president, and we are going to send we're going to draw up the articles of impeachment. This is what we want to charge the president with, and the Senate, you are in charge of actually charging the president with this. So the trial goes to the Senate, and the Senate has to decide whether they deem the president guilty or not. So if the Senate votes that the president is guilty, then the Supreme Court justice makes the decision on whether the president will be removed from office or not. It's a big process. If the Senate finds the president not guilty and acquits the president of the charges placed against him by Congress, then the president stands as being impeached by Congress and acquitted at the Senate. This is exactly what happened with Bill Clinton in the late 90s. And this is the probable outcome of this current impeachment process with President Donald J. Trump. So that's what's going to happen next. First of all, everyone's going to go on vacation. They're going to go away for a few weeks. Go away for the holidays. When they come back from the holidays, the Senate will convene a committee to discuss the possibility of holding a Senate trial. Then they will come up with the rules of the Senate trial. Then they will start the Senate trial or not, because the Senate could vote that they don't see any merit in the impeachment indictment of the Congress, and they could vote not to have a trial and just acquit the president without a trial. There's a lot of different things that could happen. I want to hear what you have to say. 1-877-669-1292. Are you surprised by what's going on? Are you surprised by this? I mean, I don't normally break into regular programming on True Talk Radio unless something big is going on. And tonight I decided to break in because this is a historic moment. The only two other presidents, well, there were three times that Congress contemplated impeaching a president. The first time was Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson. He was the president who replaced Abraham Lincoln after Lincoln was assassinated in the Ford Theater. And Johnson was brought up on charges of impeachment due to him firing the Minister of War, the Secretary of War. He fired the Secretary of War because the United States was going to war, and the Secretary of War opposed the war that the U.S. was going to. And Johnson wanted to go to war, so he fired the Secretary of War. Congress didn't like that because he didn't ask Congress's opinion or permission to go to war. And constitutionally, if the president wants to go to war, the president has the right to declare war as the chief of staff, but he normally should get the approval of Congress and the Senate. Well, this president decided not to, and so he was impeached for firing the Secretary of War. His impeachment passed through Congress easily, but did not pass the Senate. So he was impeached, but he was not removed from office. The next impeachment happened in the late 90s. President Bill Clinton was impeached. He was impeached for the simple reason of lying to Congress. So Congress had a congressional investigation. He came to testify at the congressional investigation over an extramarital affair he was having and his abuse of power in regards to his extramarital affair. When he was asked a direct question by a congressperson, did you or did you not have sexual relations with that woman? Aside from playing semantics and special and being really special by asking for definitions of the word sex. And by the way, Bill Clinton redefined sex in the minds of many people. That trial really did a lot of harm to society in general. Forget about the presidency and the president and the whole idea of respecting the president, because that went out the window with Bill Clinton. So forget about all that. It really redefined the way the world looks at the president and the way the world reacts to the president. Clinton was a liar and a cheat, and people don't forget that. And so the presidency, the office of the president, was really marred by Bill Clinton and his impeachment. So he was found guilty in the Congress, and the Senate did not impeach Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton got to stay in power. Donald Trump's impeachment is a little different than all the other ones, simply because he was impeached in his first term. He's the first president. If you don't count Andrew Johnson, who wasn't in his first term, he was just replacing Lincoln, so it's not really considered a presidential term. He was Clinton was impeached at the beginning of his second term. So President Trump was impeached near the end of his first term. Remember, we were only 11 months away from an election, 11 months away from a presidential election. And impeaching a president 11 months before the election is, in my opinion, would be rather insulting to the American people. Telling the American people, we don't trust you to choose your next president. We're going to choose him for you. We're going to impeach this one. We're going to throw this one out of office, even though you're going to elections in 11 months. It doesn't make sense. I know. When you think about it, it makes no sense. Why would you impeach a president 11 months before an election? It's absolutely ridiculous. And the articles of impeachment are ridiculous too. So if you look at the articles of impeachment for President Trump, you will see that the first article of impeachment is abuse of power. So the accusation is that President Trump held hostage money that was supposed to go to Ukraine, to the Ukrainian government to help with their defense against Russian attacks, in exchange for a favor, and the favor basically being to invest that Ukraine should investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter, who was working in Ukraine, and that Trump held back this aid, much needed aid, as they say, so that the Ukrainian government could announce this investigation. Even though the investigation never happened and the aid was released anyway, the Democrats still insisted that this was a blackmail. This was Trump exerting the power of the U.S. president and forcing the Ukrainian government to do something they didn't want to do. But they never did it, and he gave them the money. It goes to prove, by the way, that Trump is not a very good blackmailer. This is all it proves, that Trump is not a very good blackmailer. It doesn't prove anything else. Just that he's not a good blackmailer. He's really not good at that. Not good at that job. I wouldn't hire him to blackmail people for me. Not that I hire people to blackmail people for me. Don't get me wrong. I don't do that. But if I was going to blackmail somebody, Trump is not the guy I would hire to do it, based on the evidence that was presented during this impeachment trial. I would have to be crazy to hire him to do anything, or even negotiate a business deal with me. You'd have to be insane to hire this guy, if that was the case. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. You could post a message up in any of the many social media places that you could be watching this. If you're watching on TrueTalkRadio.com, you could just call in. If you're on Facebook, YouTube, on Twitter, you could just put a message in. I'll see your message pop up, and I'll be able to talk to you there. So this is what's going on. It's absolutely fascinating, and I'm happy that I've lived long enough to be able to witness two, not one, but two presidential impeachments in my lifetime. I'm not that old. And the one that happened before that happened almost 200 years ago. It's amazing. So we're getting some messages in. Okay, I'm gonna skip the one that says we love you. Thank you. I love you too. Ephraim says they will impeach 11 months before an election so they could tell voters they're doing their constitutional duty by investigating the president. If voters believe he did an impeachable offense, it's a different story. And you're 100% right, Ephraim. 100% right. If voters believe that the president committed an impeachable offense, he will not be reelected, because being impeached doesn't stop him from being reelected. So if the voters do believe that he committed an impeachable offense, in 11 months, they're not going to reelect him. But I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that Trump gets reelected in November 2020. Almost 100%. I will bet you that he will be reelected. Trump has been a very good president. He's put a lot of people back to work. People are happy with Trump. The only people not happy with him are the Congress people. It's the most amazing thing in the world. So putting him up 11 months before election, and putting him up to be impeached 11 months before an election, is a political ploy. It's a political move. Now, impeachment is not supposed to be political. If you read the Constitution, and I have, in fact, I read the Constitution, the entire Constitution, from cover to cover, this afternoon, as I had my my grade 9 students read the Constitution, at least the clauses of the Constitution that involve impeachment. They read it this afternoon, too. So we studied the Constitution this afternoon. We looked at the Constitution. And the Constitution is pretty clear when it describes the context of impeachment, that it shouldn't be partisan, that impeachment should be to remove a president who has caused an egregious sin against the United States, who has committed some kind of horrific act against the United States. The whole idea of impeachment actually came from England. It was one of the English, ironically, it was one of the English carryovers that the founders of America wrote into the Constitution, and they wrote it into the Constitution simply because they didn't want the monarch taking over the country. So if they found that a loyalist had become president of the United States, they would be able to remove that loyalist for high crimes and misdemeanors. That's why they left it so vague. What is a high crime and misdemeanor? If it's a high crime, how could it be a misdemeanor? So that's why it's so vague. That's why they use these terms so vaguely, so that they could pretty much fit almost any crime into there, and they could orchestrate the removal of a president, much like that just happened now. In fact, I would say what happened now is probably exactly what the framers of the Constitution had in mind when they wrote this into the Constitution, when they wrote this section of the Constitution. That they had a president that was a very strong president, that was popular amongst middle America, that played fast and easy with the rules. He never really crossed over the line, but he played fast and easy with the rules. And because he played fast and easy with the rules, they were able to fit a crime around their impeachment dream. So this is pretty much, I think this impeachment, thinking about it, this impeachment probably followed the model that was set up by the founders of America, by the people who wrote the Constitution, because they would have had to play these kind of games too, if a loyalist had taken over the presidency in their time. So if a loyalist took over the presidency in their time, you would they would have to find a way to impeach the president, because the president would have been elected as the will of the people, and the republic stands on we the people. So they would have had to find a way to impeach him. So how would they have found a way to impeach him? Much the same way the Democrats found a way to impeach Trump. They would parse every word. They would look at every little action. They would examine every little thing. They would harass the guy from the beginning till the end until he either cracked or until they found something. There's an old saying: if you throw enough stuff against a wall, something is going to stick. And that's essentially what they did. They threw enough against the wall that something eventually sticked. Now, we all know that the Senate is not going to impeach Donald Trump. He is not going to remove from office. And I like I said before, I will bet you dollars to donuts, 100% sure, that Donald Trump will be reelected, if not by a landslide, by a large margin. I'm willing to bet a landslide, but if it doesn't happen by a landslide, it's going to be a large margin. This is going to happen, and it's going to happen quickly, and it's going to be happening in the next 11 months. And you're going to see. Already, if you take a look at the polls today, day of impeachment, the day he was impeached, with the impeachment trial going on, he was up in the polls today. And he's been rising all week and all month. Since this impeachment inquiry started a month ago, not even a month ago, Donald Trump's popularity has been rising. Now, for those of you who find that scary, I mean, I can understand it. Those of you who hate Trump, I understand how upsetting this must be to you. There are a lot of people out there who just hate the president. They just don't like the man. But not liking the man does not, and I repeat, it does not constitute impeachment. It's not a crime to be disliked. There are plenty of people who don't like this radio show, don't like me on their Twitter feed, or me on their Facebook feed. Plenty of guys who don't like me. Plenty of people who don't like me. And that's fine. But that doesn't mean that I have to shut everything down and not express my opinion. Plenty of people don't like the president. Every 4 years, you have the right to change the president. If you choose to exercise that right, things go well. If you choose not to exercise that right, things go another way. But look, he was impeached for nothing. Imagine I looked at you and I said, you are guilty. You're guilty. You're guilty. That's it. You're guilty. I've made my decision. You're guilty. And I could make that decision. You are guilty. And then I am going to punish you for being guilty. That's exactly what Congress did. The Democrats had the majority. They've been talking about impeaching the president since the day of his inauguration. 20 minutes after President Trump was inaugurated in 2016, the Washington Post, which is basically the mouthpiece of the Democratic Party, Jeff Bezos' newspaper owned by Amazon, the Washington Post published an article 20 minutes after Trump's inauguration saying the impeachment process has begun. So just after the president was inaugurated, they were already talking about impeaching him. Now, a lot of people don't know, and this is the interesting thing, that there are a lot of people who do not know that there have been 6 attempts to impeach Trump over the course of his presidency. The latest one was just a couple of months ago. They've been voted down in Congress, but articles of impeachment have been drawn up 6 times against President Trump. One of the articles of impeachment was because President Trump tweeted. So we had to impeach him because he tweeted. Another one was because he said some bad things about one of the Congress people. Another one was because he criticized the squad. These were impeachable offenses, according to the Democrats. And articles of impeachment were drawn up. They were presented to the Congress, and the Congress rejected them. Because they're not really crimes. You could be a really, really bad person, but you could still be president. Being a bad person doesn't preclude you from being the president of the United States. It could preclude you from being nice and from being liked, but it definitely doesn't stop you from being the president. Lots of bad people, lots of horrifically bad people have been president of the United States. Bill Clinton was president twice. But that didn't stop him from being president. Just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean that you can't be president or mayor or any elected official. Unless you live in Quebec, where if you wear a kippa, you can't be an elected official. That's a story for a different time. 1-877-669-1292. I'll take your calls. We'll talk about, if you want to react to the fact that President Trump was impeached. If you want to react to this, you could call in 1-877-669-1292. I'll be on for just a few more minutes, about 15 more minutes. And then we'll turn over True Talk Radio back to regular programming. I just wanted to come on. It's a historic night, and I felt that not coming on this historic night would have been a travesty. Would have been a travesty. 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. I want to tell you, we set up a Patreon account. Those of you looking at me on social media, those of you watching on social media, you see the address for the Patreon account. It's www.patreon.com/Howies, HOWIES. That's where you could go and you could become a member of the show. You could support the show. Putting all this together is not cheap. And I've never asked for money. I've always done this because I do this. This is what I do. But I figure if we could get some money to at least cover some of the expenses, It's not cheap streaming video. It's not cheap streaming audio. It's not cheap buying all the equipment that we have here in order to put these shows together. Just a camera that's looking at me right now, that's putting me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just that camera itself costs almost $300. So it's not cheap. It's not cheap having a 1-800 number. It's not cheap running this show. So any little that you could help, you could pretty much donate anything you want. You could donate monthly. You could donate one time, whatever you want to do. Anything you could help will help cover the expenses of this show. Is much appreciated. And if you go there, there's a couple of tiers, a couple of things that I said I will do. On Sunday, I will recognize new members that have signed up between when I set up the account and Sunday. So there's a lot of different ways you could help. Every little penny counts. So thank you so much for visiting the Patreon site, patreon.com/Howies. Now, we're talking about the Trump impeachment. You can give me a call, 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. You can get in on the conversation. I would love to talk to you about this and hear somebody else's reaction. I know I can't say I'm upset about this because I expected it. This is something that I figured was going to happen. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the impeachment on the show, and I said Donald Trump will be impeached in Congress. There was no question in my mind that Congress was going to impeach Trump. There was no question in my mind that the president was going to be impeached. And so I'm not surprised by the impeachment. I can't say I'm happy about it. I don't think there's anything to be happy about. It's a sad day when the president of the United States gets impeached. And so I'm not happy about it. I'm not sad about it. I'm not even indifferent about it. I would say that if I was going to put an emotion on the way I feel about the president being impeached, it would be confused. That would be the emotion. Confused. I am confused by the impeachment. I am confused by the articles of impeachment because they make no sense. I am confused on how many intelligent people, and I assume that anybody in Congress is intelligent. These people are drafting laws. These people are debating laws every day, all day, every day. I assume that they have to have some semblance of intelligence and some semblance of fairness. I can't imagine that so many people could be part of Congress and not be fair people and not have some semblance of common sense. But when I listened to their arguments, and really, in this case here, let me just go on the sidebar here for a sec. Because in this case here, I really wish I was their scriptwriter. One after another read the exact same words. It was deja vu. Every time somebody got up to say something, it was deja vu. I had already heard it. Everybody read from the same script. Now, I wish I was the scriptwriter because every time somebody repeats it, would I get royalties for every time somebody repeats it? Because I wouldn't mind writing scripts for these things. It's easy. Nobody's above the law. That's all they said. Nobody's above the law, not even the president. Nobody's above the law, not even the president. And they didn't even get that. It wasn't even an original line. That line came from the Nixon debate when the Congress was debating impeaching Nixon. Nobody's above the law, not even the president. That came from then. That wasn't even new. So there was no originality to this. So if I was going to impeach the president, I would try to be a little more original. I would try to put some kind of pizzazz into it, some kind of I don't know, something fun into it, so that the American people would be watching the impeachment proceedings. These were fairly boring procedural things. Unfortunately, hatred tends to damage the judgment of people, even reasonable people, writes Nathan. Sorry, I don't mean to keep coughing, but I'm still recovering from this horrible cold I had, and this is the longest I've spoken since I came down sick. So, my apologies if I turn off the microphone and I cough and you see me coughing. I apologize, but that's just the way it is. Hatred does tend to damage the judgment of people, even reasonable people. I agree with you, Nathan. That is the truth. It's very unfortunate, though, because when you think about legislators, You are trusting them to legislate, to put together laws that will affect everybody's lives. Funding, laws, all sorts of stuff that will affect everybody's lives. And when you see something like this impeachment happen, you kind of lose faith in them. You kind of lose faith. And losing faith is horrible. When you lose faith in your elected officials, that's horrible. So I say, thank God America is going to election in 11 months. I know that President Trump is going to win by, if not a landslide, a large majority. That's not even a question about that. And I understand that many of the Congress people who voted for impeachment, some of them who voted, who represent districts that Donald Trump won in the election, I understand that some of those people will not be back in Congress after November. Because I can't see them being re-elected by their congressional districts that supported Donald Trump. So a lot of these people took a huge chance with their jobs and with their support. It's really sad. And when you think about it, it's really sad because some of these people must be very good legislators. They must be very good people. And to be elected into Congress and then to squander it away because you were partisan and you were just following the party line. And then to be able to lose and then to go back to be a regular citizen and not be a legislator anymore because you were following the party line is the biggest tragedy here. Trump will survive this. And even if he doesn't survive this, I mean, he'll go back to regular life and he'll be just a regular guy. And he'll survive all that. But some of these legislators who won't get reelected will suffer for years and years and years. I know people who served in office for many years who suddenly were out of office and they were like, what do I do with my life now? I was in office for so long, they told me, that they didn't know how to do anything else. And it's scary when you go into a situation where you lose your job and then you have to figure out what to do. Well, where do I go from here? And this is why people have to think 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 times before they vote for a contentious law, like an impeachment law. A contentious move that you know is totally partisan, that has nothing behind it, that is going to fail in the next level, yet you vote for it anyway. You wasted the time of Congress, you wasted the time of America. You voted for this. Strictly because you hate the president. So when you know that happened, I mean, there's not much more you could say. What else could you do? What could you possibly do? 1-877-669-1292 is the number to call. 1-877-669-1292. I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show. We're heard on the True Talk Radio Network on Sundays at 6 p.m. and on Tuesdays at 10 p.m. I know the little ticker on the bottom of the screen says Thursdays. We are not going to be on Thursdays. So it's just Mondays and Tuesdays. I know today's Wednesday. You don't have to tell me. Don't call me and tell me today's Wednesday. I know, but today's a special Wednesday. It's Impeachment Wednesday. It's a Wednesday where the President of the United States was impeached, and I couldn't imagine not coming on to the air on Wednesday, regardless if it was Monday or Tuesday. I broke into programming, and I came onto the air on Wednesday because I couldn't imagine not coming on and talking to you a little bit, just for a few minutes about the the impeachment. Normally I come on to talk about elections, but today was an impeachment. So I couldn't imagine not coming on to talk to you about the impeachment. It's a sad day in American history, a really sad day. Now, a lot of people have asked me, Howie, why do you care so much? You're not American. What difference does it make to you? And the truth is, it makes a huge difference to me and everybody else. I've been American. I've been a fan of America. I should be an honorary citizen of America. I've been a fan of America for a very, very long time. And aside from that, everything that happens in the States affects Canada, for sure. We're the closest allies. We're the closest partners. We're attached to them. So anything that happens there happens here. Well, affects us here. And, while I'm here, let's talk about Canada for a second. I know the big story is America, but let's talk about Canada for a second. For the second week in a row, the Canadian government has voted against Israel at the United Nations. Now, the Canadian government has decided that they will support a motion at the United Nations that will require Canada to refer to Judea and Samaria as occupied territories and East Jerusalem. Judea, Samaria, and East Jerusalem as occupied territories. The resolution means that that anytime a Jew talks about going to the Western Wall or to the Wailing Wall, in Canada, they have to refer to it as, I'm going to occupied Palestinian territory. Because that's the resolution that Canada voted for today at the United Nations. So, this has not happened since the last Liberal government. So during the Conservative governments, Conservatives were a lot better at voting in favor of Israel than the Liberals have been. And our feminist Prime Minister, Mr. Justin Trudeau, the man who doesn't like the word mankind, prefers to use the word people kind, his government has taken a stand against Israel. It's still mind-boggling, absolutely 100% mind-boggling on why there are still Jewish people who vote for the Liberals in Canada. Same way it's mind-boggling how there are Jewish people who vote Democrats in the States. It's absolutely mind-boggling how Jewish people are still voting for the Liberal Party, and Jewish people are still running and being part of the Liberal Party of Canada. They have shown time and time again that they don't support the same things that the issues that the Jewish people care about. And the Conservatives have shown time and time again that they do support the issues that Jews care about. So it's mind-boggling to me. It's maybe someone could explain it to me. I'm sure there's somebody out there who could explain this to me. But to me, it is absolutely mind-boggling that the Jews still support the Conservative government, the Liberal government. I don't know. All right, I'm Howie Silbiger, and I'm just about out of voice. If you want to call in, now's the time. It's the last chance. 1-877-669-1292. It's 1-877-669-1292. If you want to call in, you can. If not, I am going to sign out, and I invite you to tune in to TrueTalkRadio.com. TrueTalkRadio.com is the official station of the Howie Silbiger Show, and it has a 24-hour streaming radio station. So there's a lot of shows on there. If you want to catch Ben Shapiro or the Dana Show or Mark Levin, they all air on TrueTalkRadio.com. Of course, we also have Peter Anthony Holder's Stuff File program. We have Frank Catolo's Catolo Chronicles. We have a nice Hell Show from Kentucky. There's a lot of stuff on TrueTalkRadio.com. The full schedule and everything is available at TrueTalkRadio.com. Of course, you could also download the app from your favorite app store, the True Talk Radio Network app. But if you can't find it in your app store, just go to TrueTalkRadio.com and click on one of the buttons there, and it'll take you right to the link, right to the page where you could download the app. Howie Silbiger Show will air again on Sunday night at 6 p.m. at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Sunday night at 8 p.m. right here on the True Talk Radio Network. I invite you to join me then. A rerun of the Howie Silbiger Show starts in exactly 1 minute and 39 seconds on TrueTalkRadio.com. So I will let you go, and I will talk to you again in just a few days, just on Sunday night, right here on the True Talk Radio Network. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.